now, stop me if you've heard this before. It is holiday season. It is Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up. You are a bodybuilder. You are maybe not on contest prep, but you have ambitious goals for yourself. You want to try and keep things together throughout the holiday season, and you go into panic mode. What do I do? So we are going to cover that today. We're going to talk about eating throughout the holidays and keeping things relatively together and with it for the most part. And we're also going to do a little bit of a random grab bag of questions and answers when it comes to workout related stuff. So thank you for joining me here. I appreciate it. It is Wednesday, as it always is. What is it? November 8th. This is episode, 28, I think, of the Drop Set. So thank you for joining me. Darren Starr here, your host, and well, I'm just your host today. I don't have any other great descriptors for myself. So we'll dive into the meaty stuff here pretty quickly, but just wanted to recap some things, go over the shorter segments as well. So what's been going on this week? So yesterday, I put up a YouTube video on meal prep tips. So if you haven't checked it out, I would highly encourage you to, because those things are a lot of damn work, I gotta tell you. The people who put out YouTube videos, like several of them a week, I'm just thinking, like, I don't know how you do it, but kudos to you, because, man, it's a beast. I also had some editing issues yesterday. I was moving along, everything was going great, and then we had a power outage. And that was in that moment where I'm like, I hadn't pushed the save button in about 90 minutes. So what am I doing today? Well, I'm going to shop for an uninterruptible power supply for my computer, because that power outage lasted literally like a half a second, but it was enough to screw me over for much of the day. So anyway, it is up. It is on meal prep tips. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. If you go to youtube.com/5starfitness, you can see it on my channel page there. I'd also love if you'd subscribe it, leave a comment, like it, share it with your friends, please. I'm trying to get some eyeballs on this stuff. And they are like, it's not a start to finish video on how to do a meal prep, because there are so many of those out there already. But it's just, sharing some of my favorite tips. And, these are tips coming from a guy who hates spending time in the kitchen. So it's all with a mind towards efficiency. So check that out. Let's see, workout plans. I haven't put anything new up online this week. They're still available though. So if you're just in the market for, just trying to figure out some way to keep yourself focused in the gym, those are available, 5starphysique.com. I've also, on the podcast pretty regularly, I get some really positive feedback from people who have been listening, and oftentimes through Instagram, because they're watching live here, or they see it in my story because I'll post it there after we're done live broadcasting, or on YouTube, or sometimes I just get random emails or Facebook messages as well. So people saying that they really appreciate it. So I appreciate you more, I bet. So thank you for that, though. And, a lot of the things that people would say is, they just appreciate how we kind of cut to the chase here. It's not just total bro science, but I'm also not going to just sit here and read clinical studies to you either. I think most of the value in bodybuilding is found somewhere in the middle of those two things. Like, yes, studies are important, but the practical application of it is important as well. And bro science is largely kind of stupid and underthought, but at the same time, there are some things of value to take from that camp as well. So, and also, I try to be relatively efficient with the message here. I've listened to a bunch of bodybuilding podcasts that are like 3 hours long, and they're just 2 or 3 guys sitting around just BSing and not really covering anything, and that's not what I intend to do with this. So I like to be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more content focused. So with that, let's get into it. So recapping, we did a Q&A on Monday. This was a live Instagram Q&A, had some great participation there, so thank you for joining. That was at 6 p.m. I'm probably going to try that time again for the next couple of weeks, and we'll just see how it goes. So a couple of things that came from that, though. One of them was a really good question posed by Emily, a client of mine, earlier in the day. And I said, you know what? That's a great question. Let's talk about that in the Q&A. So just to go over it again briefly, her question was regarding, substituting whey protein for egg whites. And, first of all, is it okay? The answer is yes. I'm not really concerned about that. And then also a cost breakdown. Like, she suspected that, it may be more cost effective to go with egg whites as opposed to whey protein. And I knew the answer already, but I wanted to go ahead and sit down and break it down. So what I'm going to be comparing here is a cup of egg whites versus a scoop of my protein powder of choice, which is Isopure. Macros for the egg whites in proteins, carbs, fats, 2720, about 126 calories per. Isopure 2500, about 100 calories per. Now the egg whites, they do have some trace carbs in there. If you look at the carton, you won't see those show up because it is a very small serving size, and they're allowed to round it down to 0 because it's less than 1. But a cup gets you, several servings, because I think the serving size on most egg white cartons is like 3 tablespoons. So when you're talking about a cup, yeah, it's going to be several servings. So it does, you do get about 2 grams of trace carbs in a cup. So the Isopure stuff that I get it from Amazon. I get it through their subscribe and save. So the price fluctuates a little bit, but last month when they sent it to me, it was $83.62 for a 7.5 pound tub. So just a little over $10 per pound. That's 110 scoops. So for an equivalent portion size for the egg whites, you're going to be looking at about 27.5 cartons. I'm talking about those large cartons that are about 4 cups a piece of egg whites. And those typically, at least around here and currently, and I know these prices fluctuate regionally and throughout the year, just based on, supply side economics. They're typically around like $4.50 per carton. So equivalent amounts of protein between the two sources. You're looking at, like I said, for the Isopure, $83.62 or $124 for the egg white. So it's almost 50% more expensive. Your break-even price on that would be, if you can find egg whites for about $3.04 per carton, there you go, which you'll never find that. And this includes things like Muscle Egg Whites International, all of the places that you can order egg whites from online. They are actually more expensive than what you can buy in the store. You're paying for the convenience and the larger packaging, etc. So, but on a price per pound or per ounce or per cup measurement, they're actually more expensive. So you're not going to be saving anything there. And just touching on briefly one thing that I glossed over there. I mentioned that I get my Isopure from Amazon. Not to be a total plug and not to totally just tank all the mom and pop shops, but if you're on a budget, get your stuff through Amazon, just because they have a subscribe and save program where there are certain products that are eligible for it. And if you have more than 5 products getting delivered per month, you save 15% on all of them. So that Isopure is, I think typically it's like $95, and I think I checked my delivery price this month and I'm paying like $78 for it or something like that. So I'm saving a lot on that. I also get my generic supplements. I use, L-glutamine, L-carnitine, creatine, pre-workout. I order all those things through Subscribe and Save. I get our dog treats through there, like toilet paper, paper towels, stupid boring crap like that. So just a handful of things. The 15%, it does really add up, especially on those big ticket items like your whey protein and stuff, and supplements and things like that. So check it out if you haven't already. That's the Subscribe and Save option through Amazon. Also, Arthur, who I think I saw him join earlier here, and he's competing on Saturday, and so his eyes are totally playing tricks on him right now. So we're at the point where we're loading up on water, but we haven't started to load up on carbs yet. So he's kind of feeling that. But he had a really good question earlier in the week. He's like, I feel like I look okay to my eyes, but when I take photos, it's like not the same thing. So what do I trust? And what I told him, and the truth is, photos capture a specific moment in time, but our eyes don't respond to those the same way as if they see shadow hit something and then you see something move slightly and the shadow changes just a little bit, and then the way that works with your eyes and the way it's relayed to your brain, that's what your eyes expect. So when you catch a photo, you're seeing a still, and clearly if you take a higher quality photo, this is lessened, but really we're looking at like a professional quality photograph to really make it a little bit more true to life. Your eyes don't process it the same way. So the question of what to trust, do I trust the photos or do I trust what I see? Trust what you see, but also understand that sometimes that lighting, you can seek out lighting that is just really, really flattering. And then if you catch things just right, then you look super sharp. So you've got to kind of take it with a grain of salt as well. Understand that you can trick yourself into thinking you look better than you do, but typically when it comes down to it, trust your eyes for sure. So go ahead and think right now, be thinking about this, Instagram people that are watching right now, if you have workout related or anything related to the physical output side of bodybuilding, so lifting, cardio, etc. Questions for anything like that, I'm going to have a call for that in our second segment. So be thinking about it and be ready for those. So let's see, my week in summary has been pretty basic, pretty down to earth, just training, dieting, etc. going well, bumping up the weights, keeping track of things on workout logs, and really just trying to push the envelope on some stuff. My coach has told me now that he expects me to squat 405 within like the next 6 weeks, so that's only like a 100-pound jump. So we're gonna see what happens there. Hopefully I don't end up in a back brace for the rest of my life. But I had a 300 this last week, and actually felt really good. And that was with I think I mentioned on the Q&A I'd done some lower back work the day before, so it was a little sore still. But 300 felt fine. So and he says my mechanics are fine, so he wants me to go for 4. So we'll see what happens. I did make a hilarious attempt to try and clean out space in my garage this week so I could park my truck in there, and then realize that actually the truck is too big. It's too long unless I pull it all the way forward, and then I can't walk around it. So anyway, that's my week in a nutshell. As far as our recurring segments here, one of them is going to be really quick. So our bodybuilding myth this week, I don't have one. Sorry. I couldn't think of anything that was really worth talking about, but I do have 2 rants. So I'll make them both brief. One of them is on Instagram. A lot of my rants lately have been revolving around Instagram because I've been trying to kind of build up my following there, and I've been really frustrated by it. Just because it seems like what really works, and this applies to YouTube, this applies to Facebook, if you're trying to drive traffic to your website or whatever, what really works in 2017 is clickbait. So where you have some sensationalized headline that's designed to get attention, and then you click through on the article and you're like, oh, well, this isn't what I thought it was. Or on YouTube, they really try to draw you in with a thumbnail that makes you think like, oh God, what's in this video? And then you click through and that thumbnail isn't even a still from the video. So my rant is just that I can't play that game. I hate it. I think it's kind of dishonest. I think it shows a lack of integrity. I always feel like I've been a victim of a bait and switch when I fall for that. And I feel like the world is sensational enough. We don't need marketing efforts in social media to try and capitalize on that as well. So I always try to keep things a little toned down a little bit. And poor Natalie, who's my marketing consultant, I'm sure she's probably like, no, that's what you need. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Natalie, I can't do it. So I've got to kind of keep it a little bit more real. I did let loose a little bit this week, and I think on my YouTube video for meal preps, I think I called those things my 5 best tips for meal prep. And I'm like, well, I'm not really sure if they're my best tips. I mean, should I say that? I don't know. I mean, that tells you where my head's at. Like, I've got to be honest all the time. So that's one, just clickbait in general. I hate it. And the other thing is on Instagram, this is really funny. So there's a tag where one of the tags you can put on your account is what you are. And I think mine says like coach, clearly. And I see a lot of people, and the tag that they have is public figure. And I just want to throw this out there for anybody who has that tag. If you have to put that tag on your account, it means you are not a public figure. It means you maybe think you are, but you're not. Because if you are, you don't need that tag. So there you go. That's all I'm going to say. Mic drop, I'm out. So let's go on. So the 2 meaty topics today, no pun intended, we're going to talk holiday eating. So we've got Thanksgiving around the corner. If I really did my homework before recording this podcast, I would have been able to tell you what date it is. Maybe it's on my calendar here. Let me pull it up. Let me see if Google Calendar is going to save me. No, I'm going to guess maybe the 24th. I don't know. Something like that, probably. So, we're a little over 2 weeks from that. So the question now becomes, okay, it's holiday time. We've got this murderer's row of holidays here. So there was Halloween, which we're already too late for. And let me tell you, the 23rd? 23rd says Alex? Oh yeah, 23rd is a Thursday. Yeah, you're right. Okay, cool, I got you. So it's 15 days from now. Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So we had Halloween, which, my that was a Tuesday, and I tell you what, like that whole week for me was just all about triage with my clients, because Saturday was the day where everybody had their Halloween party, and then everybody got drunk or whatever, had a bunch of crap to eat, and then kind of recovered from that on Sunday, went back to work on Monday, and then Tuesday rolled around. It's like, oh, candy, okay. So I mean that was tricky, but Halloween is one of those things where that's not really an expectation. That's just about a lack of willpower usually, and a little party here and there, that's fine. Thanksgiving, however, and Christmas coming up as well is much more about expectations, because it's family time involved. And so nobody wants to be that stick in the mud, pain in the ass who goes to Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner with their effing Tupperware in tow, and they're like, okay, you all do that stuff. I'm just gonna heat this stuff up in the microwave, and I've got my little Tupperware container here at my plate, and you guys have, first of all, you don't want to do that, and everybody in your family is gonna be glaring at you, right or wrong, because if you want to do that, that's your prerogative. It doesn't really impact anybody else's ability to enjoy the day. I always encourage people, when you're on a plan and you're with it and you're being pressured into stuff in social situations, just give everybody a giant middle finger. That's not their problem. If you decide that you're gonna go out to eat or something like that, and you're gonna pick a clean option like a salad, you're gonna have water. If anybody gives you crap for that, which I'm not sure that really happens. I think a lot of people suspect that it makes people feel a certain way. I'm not sure if anybody ever says like, oh God, why are you doing that in a serious way. Maybe they give you crap because you're showing them that you're dedicated, and reminding them that maybe they're not. So there could be a little bit of that in play, but nobody really cares. And if they do, giant middle finger to you. So we don't care. But the holidays are different because it is family time, so there is some expectation that you're involved in what everybody else is involved in as well. And I think that's fair, that's reasonable, and for somebody who, I won't be seeing my family at the holidays, at least not as far as I know right now, because they're on the other side of the country, and I don't have plans to travel back right now. Sorry, mom or dad, if you're watching this, sorry. Spoiler alert, I'm probably not coming home for the holidays. Jade says it does happen. Well, you know what? Those people suck. So if you've got friends that do that, they're probably not really your friends. They might be people you hang out with, but they're a pain in the ass. Anyway, that's not me judging. It's not my place to say who's friend, but that's annoying, because your decisions in that regard don't impact anybody else. Now, if somebody really wants you to come to a thing or whatever, and you say, no, I can't, and I've got to keep myself out of it because, I'm on a plan, well then, yeah, then that does impact other people's plans, because they want you around. They like you, they want to spend time with you, and you're saying, no, you can't because I'm on a diet. That's not true. You don't have to exclude yourself. You just have to go and make better decisions. That's all there is to it. So what it comes down to for the holidays is thinking like, okay, what do we do for Thanksgiving? Well, what is Thanksgiving? I don't mean from like a philosophical, what is the point of this holiday, etc. But I mean, as far as family and food are concerned, what is Thanksgiving? It's Thanksgiving dinner. That's what it distills down to. And so usually it's, kind of mid-afternoon, like, I don't know what the tradition is. Like my family always did it like around 2 or 3 o'clock. I'm pretty sure that was always scheduled, had something to do with kickoff times for football games on Thanksgiving. I don't know for sure. But it's a meal. It's a meal. And the one thing that I always tell my clients is I remind them of that. It's a meal. It's not a day. It's not the entire week. It's not the month of November. So let's do some quick math here. Let's say that you are having a typical, serious, I busted out the calculator here. So you're having a typical bodybuilding style meal plan. You're eating 6 meals a day. You're having 7 days in a week. So that's 42 meals in a week, and then multiply that by 4. So for 4 weeks, so you're having 168 meals over the course of a month. So what it comes down to is just percentages. On that note, I should figure out the percentage. Okay, so that means that Thanksgiving dinner accounts for, this battery's about to die in this calculator, about 0.6 of a percentage point of your meals for the month. That's what Thanksgiving dinner is. So I would challenge anybody, if you are on point with your diet for the entire month of November, I would challenge you to find a way to blow it hard enough on Thanksgiving dinner that you actually have an impact that registers on the scale as more than like 2 to 4 days of excess water retention. It will not happen. So you cannot undo a whole bunch of good work with one bad meal. It is just statistically not going to happen. Now, you can make yourself kind of miserable, and we've all experienced the Thanksgiving Day food coma, I'm pretty sure. Please don't tell me it's just me. I'm sure we've all done that at some point. The issue then is, what if you aren't on tap for the rest of the month? What if you aren't on point with everything? What if you're like letting things creep in, etc.? That's when it becomes more of a problem, because and that's when I encourage people. And so I don't like to make blanket statements. And instead, when I work with my clients, I like to, when we're setting the groundwork for what happens on Thanksgiving Day, I've got to look at what's been going on for the past couple weeks. And, if we've been crushing it on point, everything's going well, great. We're probably going to give you carte blanche to do whatever you want. If you've been struggling and having weeks and weeks where it's just not consistent, we're missing things, we're getting extra things, your energy is all over the place, your water retention is spiking and dropping and everything's unpredictable, then having a no-holds-barred cheat meal on Thanksgiving Day, we might want to put some guidelines on it. I'm not going to say don't participate, but I think you've got to look at the entire circumstance over like a short-term history of a couple weeks, and see where you sit, and then try and make some reasonable judgment calls about what might be appropriate there. So a couple things to consider on this as well. So what phase are you in? Are you in contest prep? Are you trying to just, cut weight and drop body fat if you're a non-competitor? What phase are you in? Are you in off season? Are you trying to grow? Are you trying to maintain? If you're trying to grow, great. Thanksgiving dinner is probably the best thing that could possibly happen to you, because it's going to force you to eat some more, and then you're probably going to fall asleep after that, and then you're going to go to the gym on Friday, and you're going to have the most balls to the wall workout you've ever had because you're so overloaded with energy and calories in your system. You've got a surplus, so great. We're going to capitalize on that and go crush some weights. Now, there is a reason. So for competitors specifically, let me talk to you here. There is a reason why shows are scheduled when they are. So what you'll notice is this year, Nationals in Miami, I believe, is the 17th and the 18th. It's the week before. I'm pretty sure that Nationals has never been the week of or after Thanksgiving. And there's a reason for that. And it's because there's a $350 entry fee for Nationals. And they know that they're going to miss out on a lot of that if they have scheduling conflicts with the holiday. So, they know that bodybuilders are hardcore, but they also know that they've got a pick of a lot of different national level shows. And if it comes down to it, it's like, oh, wow, so Thanksgiving is Thursday, and then, Nationals is the next day or the next week. They know that people are going to look for different national level shows to compete in. So, and also there's a reason why that is the last national level show of the year. Why there isn't anything later in November or in December. And also, it's why most shows, regional NPC shows, etc., why they typically start up and become, more dense on the calendar around mid-April. You can find shows earlier than that, and there are some in March. I think even Florida probably has a couple in February, I think. But typically, like Texas, for example, is one where they've got a ton of shows throughout the year. The first one in 2018 is March 24th. So they don't have shows in January and typically in February and very few in March, just because they know that when they do that, people are going to be prepping through the holidays, and they know that people don't want to do that. And I talk with clients all the time who will say, yeah, so let's pick a show in later April or May so that I can start around January 1st. That's very common. And it's because trying to prep through the holidays is a giant, monumental pain in the ass. And show promoters, I would contest this sometimes, but they aren't stupid. They realize that. They understand the economics of it, at least. And that if they put their show in more advantageous positions throughout the calendar year, they're going to have more people at their show, So that's just very, very simple. What it comes down to for treating these holidays, though, is you've got to pick your spots. And so it involves some degree of planning ahead and then some degree of self-control, because Dean, dumb question. What's the topic this week? This is the guy who's coming in late to class. He's like, hey guys, what are we talking about? Dean, we're talking about, it's okay. We're talking about holiday eating, and then we've got a little Q&A session that's going to follow this afterwards. So thanks for joining, man. So it comes down to a little bit of planning ahead. So you've got to pick your spots. There's a time and a place. You've got to pick your spots. So if you know, like, okay, in your family, and let's say you're like me, and you're going to be here, you're going to be, kind of by yourself. I know we had the conversation last night. My wife is going down to visit her family in Alabama, one state away, for Thanksgiving. She's going to stay overnight down there. And I'm going to stay behind because I'm on dog duty. So somebody's got to take care of the dogs. We've got this little thing who's just only now at 1 o'clock in the afternoon eating her breakfast behind me here. But she's 16. She doesn't travel well. We can't really leave her with friends. So somebody's got to stay behind with her. So I will bite the bullet. I will do that. So I'm going to be here for Thanksgiving. So I'm picking my spots. What am I going to do? Well, nothing special for Thanksgiving. So, I'll probably be just on my plan, and that's the end of the discussion. So it's nothing complicated there. But let's say in your family, it's a big deal. There's people coming in from all over the place. It's something where people gather for a few days. They're coming from out of state. Maybe you've got people coming from out of country. Who knows? It's a big deal. So in that case, that is a spot that is kind of, for better or worse, has kind of been picked for you. So you realize, okay, I'm going to be, I'm going to be involved in this. So then you have to figure out your level of involvement. So a lot of people that I work with and a lot of people that I've talked to, they love Thanksgiving foods. Like, they absolutely just live for it. It's like, oh my God, this is the time of year where everything happens. I love all this stuff. So I just want to eat myself into a coma, which maybe I'll never wake up from. Okay, cool. So that's your spot. You've picked it. So now we need to be very reasonable and really tight with things outside of that spot, which means being as on point with your diet as you can until that happens, and then probably for a little bit afterwards as well. So pick your spot and attack it. And with other people, it's like, this is kind of how I feel as well. If I was going to a big Thanksgiving dinner, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I don't really crave any of that stuff, like, candied yams, cranberry sauce, stuffing. I'm like, I'll eat it, but I'm not excited about it. So that would be a spot where I might say, I'm going to give myself a calorie range, and I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to try and stick within this. I'm going to, get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but basically kind of treat it as maybe like a very minor little refeed, or kind of like, what would count as a cheat meal, but not one where I leave it feeling just disgusting or anything like that. So, pick your spots, determine your level of involvement, understand what phase you're in, and then understand that if you are on point with your diet, this whole discussion is pretty much moot. Because like I said, that one meal for your whole month is 0.6 of a percentage point of your meals for the month. So there's really nothing you can do if you're on point with everything outside of that window to really set yourself back in any kind of meaningful way. So, and that applies for Christmas. The only issue here is you've got that same thing happening 2 months consecutively, pretty much, where, it could be big events 2 months in a row. And again, Thanksgiving, you're like, ooh, okay. Hopefully, if you stuff your face and you get your fill, that'll last you for a little bit, and then you can kind of ride through till Christmas. And again, maintaining that Christmas, it's Christmas dinner. And it's not the entire week. It's not the month of December. It's not the entire winter season. It's a meal, realistically. And Christmas is a little bit trickier just because you've got things like, people are trying to throw parties. You've got, faculty parties for work, for the holidays and that kind of stuff. So there are other decisions that have to be made. But again, it goes back to pick your spots. And maybe, you don't like your family. You don't want a reason to stick around any longer than you have to. You don't want to eat a ton of food and fall asleep, because then that means you're just going to be around them that much longer. Cool. So maybe Christmas dinner isn't the spot you pick, but that faculty party, sure. Yeah, because it's being catered by such and such, and you want to get in on some of that. So pick your spot. That's the big thing. And then just try and keep things as tight and consistent outside of that window as possible. It's really kind of common sense stuff, but I know this is the season where I really, I have this conversation pretty much with every one of my clients every year. So I just thought I'd try and stay ahead of the curve a little bit here by talking about it in the podcast. So with that being said, it is time. We are moving on to topic number 2. So this is the random question grab bag. So I have some that I have gathered here throughout the last couple of weeks. Ones that I have not addressed publicly, yes, but fire away. So at this point, Instagram, I'm looking at you here specifically, and I know you're awake. I can see that there's some people watching here. So Jade says, so I'll take this as I'm getting a cheat meal. I wouldn't count on that. That's the danger of being in prep for a December show. Christmas is your spot that you're picking, I think, not Thanksgiving. Dean says, you've got me excited for those 100 Christmas cookies I'm about to eat. Oh dear. Should I be reading this? Was that comment meant for me? Is that what you want me to know? Um, So if you have questions at this point, things I'm looking for are specifically workout related. So anything in the gym, so lifting, cardio, etc. How those things work together, anything that can be kind of related to that, fire away. So I found a few here, some things that I've been asked, some things that I found as well that are questions that are maybe a little off the wall, but I think they're worth addressing here. So I'm going to get started with those. Fire away on Instagram and let me know what you got here. And poor YouTube, you're just watching this pre-recorded. You're not live. I'm sorry. So if you have questions, though, leave them in the comments, and I'll come back and answer them. So there you go. All right. So one question, and I remember asking this question many years ago myself because I was in a situation where I was commuting to work via bike, which was about a 30-minute ride each direction. And I was trying to gain size at the time. So the question is, can you do cardio and gain size? And the answer, now this seems really obvious, but I can remember when it wasn't. Of course you can. I mean, it depends on how much cardio you're doing, you may have to eat a whole lot more. But there's never a time when you can't or shouldn't do cardio, just because it's good for your overall health. So, if you're doing high intense, a lot of cardio, I would stress that when you're trying to gain size, that is a good time to do less cardio, simply because then when you try to cut weight, you're gonna, you don't want to manipulate that exclusively just with caloric manipulation, like intake manipulation. It's good to bring in some additional cardio then as well. So if you're trying to gain size, some cardio is good. Don't overdo it if you can help it. But if, for example, if you're in the military and you have to do regular group PT, 3-4 times a week, whatever is standard for your unit. If you are like I was and you have to commute for work, etc., and you've got to bike there or walk or whatever, certainly you can work with that, absolutely. And you get your body conditioned to that, and then it starts to feel less like cardio and more just like something that you do. So, but you absolutely can do cardio and gain size. You may just have to eat a little bit more. And certainly always remember, counterintuitive to do that and try to gain size at the time. So can you get away with less cardio? But, I'll tell the story of Max, one of the guys I'm working with right now, and he's doing a great job of putting on size. And he hits cardio because he likes to. He likes it as part of his routine, pretty much 5 days a week for 35 minutes in the morning. And he hits it at a pretty high intensity as well. So, his goal is to get up, sweat his ass off, and start his day right. So, that's why he's eating, 4,600 calories a day at this point. So, he also likes food. So, if you find yourself in a position where, I don't know if I can eat anymore, keep in mind, you can always eat more. That is a challenge I will happily accept. Next question that I found: is it better to work multiple muscle groups in one session? So this would be should I do a session that is back, or should I put back and biceps together in one session, or should I try and do chest, shoulders, and triceps all in one session together? Emily says, "Love food." Yeah, all right. I agree. Food is life. So this question is difficult to answer universally, just because everybody's a little bit different. So what I would not do, if you look at your physique and you notice that there is a body part that is lagging, that you want to bring it up, or that you have a difficult time focusing on, one thing I would not do is pair additional muscle groups with it. That is going to be counterproductive. I want you to be able to focus on the weak spot pretty much exclusively. Also understand that hitting multiple muscle groups in the same workout and doing it effectively in a way that's actually going to promote growth. Sorry, I have wandering dogs behind me, and I just saw Bella walk behind me on the YouTube camera here, just walking around, not really knowing what she's doing. If you hit multiple muscle groups in a workout, in order to hit them effectively, that's going to be a lot harder. Like doing a really effective total body workout, that is hard because you're hitting all your muscle groups and you're supposed to hit them effectively and reach fatigue with all of them. I mean, that is really, really tough. So it's a much higher degree of difficulty when you start doing multiple muscle groups together. So that's worth keeping in mind. And then also, take your weak spots and make sure that they get attention. Now, if your weak spots are biceps, for example, you don't need an entire workout that's dedicated to biceps. I've done that before. It was actually kind of fun. I don't know that I needed it. But I would not necessarily say, this applies more to the larger muscle groups. Arms, they are what they are. I know we love to train them, but they don't typically need a whole lot of exclusive love. So, Dean, I haven't even read the question yet, but he's throwing me a softball because he says it's a pretty easy answer, but he just wants to hear it. What are some ways and means to rev up intensity, maybe by adding more weight, going heavy till failure, and then drop till failure, etc.? Great question. I'm going to ponder that while I take a drink of water here. Dramatic pause. So, yeah. So ways to rev up intensity. My favorite one, which is, I got to tell you, my chair is sinking here. Hold on. There we go. This office chair might need to be replaced soon. It keeps just kind of sinking down very, very gradually. I feel like I'm a little kid sitting at the adults' table. The best way to rev up intensity, which is possibly, this could be the least sexy answer that I could possibly give for this question, but that is to execute everything better. That's all there is to it. So there is no such thing as flawless execution of an exercise. Whatever you're doing, you can always do it better. Well, I don't want to say there's no such thing as that, because I guess there is some perfection. I've never seen it, but I don't think I've ever done it myself. Have high standards for how you execute a particular movement, and always execute it better. Understand what articulations in your body, flexion, extension, adduction, abduction. Understand what is required of a particular exercise, what the muscles are that are involved in doing that, how you can feel it better, how you can just execute the movement better. That is the number one way to bump up your intensity, and that is the first thing that anybody should focus on. And that should always be in the back of your head, even as you start to then focus on some other things. Like adding more weight is entirely possible. Arthur, you're killing me, man. And so adding weight, yes. I mean, there is kind of a bell curve on weight where, I always tell people, the thing that I say is, weight isn't the most important thing, but it is important. There needs to be enough weight there to where, there's, the muscle's being stimulated and it's being challenged, but not so much weight that you're just brute forcing it and giving every rep the old heave ho and just focusing on moving weight. We always need to focus on muscle activation. So, but I tell people and I say, well, weight doesn't matter all that much, but then I will see workout logs where people are doing, like dumbbell, a dumbbell chest press with 5-pound dumbbells. I'm like, okay, so yeah, weight is important. Let me back up. Okay, I mean, there's always there's always somebody that pushes the extremes. So weight is important. You've got to have enough to where your muscles are really feeling it, but always being mindful of what form should look like and what that mind-muscle connection feels like. But then challenge yourself and say, okay, so this feels good, and I feel like if I'm going to go up, I might lose form, or I might start to feel this less, but try it. Go up and weight, try and maintain that form, focus hard and try and maintain that same kind of connection. That's a good kind of a weight increase. And then, other things that I like, partial reps can be good. I don't encourage those for starters just because they can develop bad habits, but if you understand, the requirement there and the prerequisite is you understand what a good full range of motion, full repetition looks like for a particular exercise. And then you can play around with partials, things like 21s, etc. Drop sets are great. Rest pause is great, where you go to failure and then you rest for 10 to 15 seconds. You resume to failure, it's going to be a much lower number, and then you rest again for 10 to 15 seconds, and then you give it one more go a third time. So a third little mini set for failure, where maybe you're just getting 1 or 2 reps on that last go around. That's rest pause. That works really well. If you're with a partner, you can do some manual resistance stuff where, on a machine preacher curl, you curl the weight up, and then your partner's pulling against you, and you've got to fight them, and they're always going to win. But that's another way to do it. You can do some forced reps where you kind of cheat it up, but you still focus on that squeeze and a quality negative. So there's a lot of intensifying techniques. They're all good. There's just a time and a place for all of them. And you don't want to overdo it with those. You want to rely on the bread and butter stuff, just good quality form and high intensity execution above all else. So good question. The kind of corollary to the question before, which was, is it better to work multiple muscle groups in one session? Another question I had asked was, can I just do one exercise per muscle group and hit everything in one day? And that kind of goes back to the previous question where total body workouts really, really hard. And especially, if you're just doing one exercise and you're going to do a circuit and you're going to try and hit like 4 or 5 body parts in a set, you're going to have to circuit that stuff. And at that point, it's a different kind of workout. It's not a hypertrophy workout. It's not a workout where you're really going to be focusing on building anything, unless you're just starting out. And I've always, I like to make the analogy where when you're first starting out, you can just drive by the gym and not even stop, and you can still get a little bit of a pump from that. The longer you stay with it, and the more consistent you are with it, the more dedicated, hard, consistent work you have to put in order to get something out of it. So if you're just trying to do one exercise per muscle group, that's a metabolic workout. It's going to be about as effective for building muscle as a CrossFit workout, which I'm sorry for all the people that love CrossFit, it is not a very effective muscle building program. So not when compared with more traditional lifting methods. It's great for conditioning. It's great for just overall athletic prowess. It is not great for building muscle. So another question, how to fix imbalances. So this is kind of a general one. So this could be like, my X overpowers my Y, which that is a very easy one. Clearly we just need to focus more on your X and less on your Y. I'll put together workout splits where, if your legs are struggling, maybe we just need to hit them more frequently. But we also need to look at, okay, why are they struggling? Why is something lagging behind? Is it because you haven't been hitting it? In which case, okay, great, let's hit it, and maybe with a little bit higher frequency. Or, I make the example often where guys who will never turn down the opportunity for a chest workout, but their chest development sucks. And it's just because of a lack of engagement. And so we need to focus not on hitting something more frequently, but on hitting it more effectively. And then, then we're going to feel it a little bit differently, and then we can focus on other intensifying techniques. But we need to correct the problems first. Now, other imbalances, and this is one that is more commonly asked because it's less of a common sense answer, is left-right imbalances. Like, my left upper leg is an inch larger in diameter than or circumference than my right leg, or something like that. So, or my left arm is a ½ inch smaller than my right arm. So first thing I do is validate those measurements and make sure that they were actually correctly taken. And then, what I want to do is say, okay, well, do we have a difference in output from left to right? And so if we're doing an isolateral alternating exercise, does the size that measures out smaller, does it tend to give out faster? Because that's more of a qualitative analysis rather than quantitative. And then we can say, okay, well, yes, then, if it is giving out sooner, then we do have a problem and we should focus on that. And if it's not, I'd be like, well, okay, then we go to the next thing, which is, can we tell from an aesthetic analysis, just visually? Like, can I tell if you give me a double bicep shot, can I tell that your left side is weaker than your right? So let's assume that one of those is the case. How do we then fix that? So what you don't do, the worst thing you could possibly do, is start using different weights on your left side versus your right side. And that seems to be, for a lot of people, the first thing that they want to do. Like, okay, well, this side's not able to do as much, so I'm just going to go heavier on this strong side, and all you're going to do is make the problem worse when you do that. So what we need to do is, assuming mind-muscle connection and quality of muscle activation is the same between those two sides, make sure that that's the case. But assuming it is, we just need to do more volume on the weaker side. So extra reps. What I would do is, if we're doing something alternating, I might say, okay, rather than saying left, right, left, right, left, right, let's start with the weak side and do all the reps on that side, and then do all the reps on the other side, and then come back and do as many reps as you possibly can on the weaker side once again. So it's basically getting, maybe up to double work as the strong side. So over time, none of these things are going to solve the issue quickly. When we're talking about muscle growth, whether it's just absolute growth or trying to fix discrepancies in growth from one muscle to another, those are things that happen slowly. So you can't expect fast results on something like that. That's one way to do it. The other thing is, a good general rule of thumb is to always let the weaker side dictate weights and reps. So start with the weaker side always. And then, the stronger side, it's not going to be reaching the same level of fatigue. So growth there may stall a little bit, but if we can catch up on the other side and try to create a little bit more balance there, what we're looking to do is maintain what's going on the stronger side, and then once the weaker side catches up eventually, then we can start bringing both sides up again. So the big thing is to be patient with that. However, it is a slow process, as I mentioned, so you need to invest the time to do it, but just to tackle it intelligently and try to throw additional volume at the weaker side, but not necessarily going with different weights from one side to the next. The last question that I had here, and I'll make this relatively quick, is this common perception that certain movements are universally bad. And I'm talking specifically about a behind the neck press, a behind the neck pull down, upright rows, and a lot of people will even say lateral raises being bad for shoulders. And one of the things that I really like to say is nothing is universal. We're all built differently. I can tell you that my body loves all 4 of those exercises. Except for lateral raises right now, but that's because of my elbow and my tendonitis, not because of my shoulder. So, it just depends on how open your shoulder is, because, a shoulder mechanically, if you go in and you look at a skeleton, you look at anatomy charts, etc., you know what it looks like roughly. And, if you don't, just know that you can go in there and know what it looks like, and that everybody's going to have all the same parts and, all the same connective tissue, all the same bone processes and things like that. But the particulars are going to vary, and mobility can vary, and strengths and weaknesses can vary from one person to the next. Your morphology can vary as well. So like how long your humerus is compared to your forearm, it can certainly vary as well. And that's a big thing that's going to make a huge difference in how effectively or whether or not you should even do like a behind the neck press or behind the neck pull down. So that's one of the big factors there. So shoulder structure, limb ratio, etc. The big thing is understand what the form is supposed to look like on those things. Go through it fairly light just to test it out. And if it's something that doesn't agree with your body, you will know. Like you'll be like, this does not feel right. And so if somebody tells me, like, I don't know if this exercise is right for me, I'll be like, let me see it. Let me see what it looks like here, because I want to make sure that they're doing it with the correct form, first of all. And then if they are, then I can tell visually, and it'll be very clear your body's just not built for this. We shouldn't do this. Or, maybe their form's just totally jacked up. We can fix it. And then they say, Eureka, this feels so much better. Great. Upright rows, there's a lot of variability there with grip. So close grip versus wide grip. It may, I've read and heard a lot of people say it has a higher risk of shoulder impingement. And again, it just depends on how your particular shoulder is constructed. That's one where it's less obvious how to execute that correctly. And one of the key things that I tell people is, limit your range of motion a little bit. For those of you on Instagram and YouTube right now, and you can actually see this, when you do an upright row, this is about where you should stop, right about chest level. If you're trying to choke yourself with the bar, that's not a productive range of motion. And even if you've got good shoulders, that's going to turn them into less good shoulders over time. So, but play around with grips and just understand what the range of motion is supposed to look like, and don't try to be overly excessive with it. Lateral raises, I've never heard of anybody. I know that people will make this argument. You can find all kinds of YouTube videos from nut jobs who say you should never do a lateral raise, just like people say you should never do a leg extension because it's terrible for your knee. Whatever. If you have structurally sound joints, there's no reason to avoid either of those exercises. You just need to make sure you do them correctly. So those are the questions that I had. So that pretty much wraps us up for today. So where are we at here? Yeah, that was right about the right time. So cool. So once again, another episode in the books. This is 28. So thank you everybody for joining, everybody who is on Instagram, everybody who will be watching on YouTube, and everybody listening either on iTunes, Google Play, or on the website at 5-Star Physique. Appreciate, as always. Send your emails, send your comments, suggestions, thoughts, anything like that. I'd appreciate it. Once again, my name is Darren. You can email me, Darren at 5starfitness.com, but the website is 5starphysique.com, and please check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/5starfitness, on Instagram at 5starfit, and on Facebook, facebook.com/5starphysique. I think that's pretty much everything. So once again, appreciate everybody listening in. Peace out. I will catch you all here next week.